Laos, December 1970. Night. General Dong Si Nguyen sits in the passenger seat of the lead truck. His hands grip the dashboard. Through the windshield he can see nothing but darkness and the faint outline of jungle pressing in from both sides of the narrow mountain road. Behind him, 49 more trucks follow in convoy. Chinese GILS-151s and Russian ZIL-157s. All blacked out. No headlights. Drivers navigating by memory and moonlight. Each vehicle is camouflaged with freshly cut branches and foliage. 2.5 tons of ammunition, rice weapons, and medical supplies in every truck bed. This is General Nguyen's Transportation Corps. Group 559. The lifeblood of North Vietnam's war effort. The Ho Chi Minh Trail. And tonight, the general himself is leading them. He insisted on this. Earlier in the day, he stood before his commanders and his frightened truck drivers in the operations tent at his headquarters. The drivers had been complaining, abandoning their trucks whenever it appeared overhead, running into the jungle to hide. Cowardice, the general called it. His drivers protested. They told him about the aircraft that hunts at night, the one that can see in complete darkness, the one that fires for hours without stopping, the one they call the old lady. The general didn't believe them. This is unacceptable, he told them. If drivers are going to die, they should die on the steering wheels of their trucks. To have our officers and men scatter like a flock of geese just because of one aircraft is an insult to our intellect, to our intelligence. He paused, his voice hardening. Tonight, I am organizing a 50-truck convoy from the 102nd Battalion. I am going to ride beside the lead driver and personally command this convoy. I will show you there is nothing to fear. Now, as the convoy rumbles through the darkness, the general feels vindicated. They've been driving for nearly an hour. No problems. The night is clear. The moon is bright. His drivers were exaggerating, panicking over nothing. Then he hears it. A sound that doesn't belong in the jungle night. Distant at first, then closer. 4 propellers, turboprop engines. Not the high-pitched whine of a jet fighter. Something deeper, slower, methodical. His driver hears it too. The young man's knuckles go white on the steering wheel. General, he whispers. The old lady. General Nguyen opens his mouth to say something, to tell the boy to keep driving, to show courage, but the words never come. The lead truck explodes. Not his truck. The one 3 vehicles ahead. One moment it's there. The next it's a fireball, pieces of metal and burning cargo spinning through the air. The driver doesn't even scream. Hess simply gone. Then the truck at the rear of the convoy explodes. Trapped. The sound from above grows louder. The general looks up through the windshield. He can't see it. The aircraft is too high. But he can hear it now. Circling. Banking in a lazy left turn. Orbiting them like a predator. Then the sky opens up. Fire rains down. Not bombs. Something worse. A continuous stream of explosions marching up the convoy. 20mm high explosive rounds detonating on impact. 40mm shells punching through truck beds and igniting ammunition. Tracers arcing down in red lines that seem to come from nowhere. His driver throws the door open and runs. Other drivers do the same. But General Nguyen had given his order, stay with your trucks. Die at your steering wheels. Some obey. They die. For more than an hour the invisible aircraft circles overhead. The jungle fills with fire and smoke and the screams of burning men. 31 trucks are destroyed. 2 more damaged beyond repair. Only the 37mm anti-aircraft gun nearby dares to fire back. 21 rounds, all of them wildly inaccurate. When the sound of the propellers finally fades, General Nguyen crawls out from beneath the chassis of his truck. His uniform is torn. His face is cut. His ears are ringing. He stands in the middle of the road surrounded by burning wreckage and dead drivers, and realizes something that will change the course of the war. His drivers were telling the truth. South Vietnam. 1968. The war is not going well. Oh, the official briefings paint a different picture. Body counts are high. Territory is being secured. Progress is being made. But on the ground, in the dozens of small special forces camps scattered across South Vietnam's jungle interior, American soldiers know the truth. They're surrounded, outnumbered, and attacked almost every night. These camps are part of the Civilian Irregular Defense Group program, CIDG. Each one is commanded by a U.S. Army Special Forces captain or first lieutenant with a small team of Green Berets. The bulk of the defenders are local Montagnard tribesmen who trust neither the North nor South Vietnamese governments. The camps are islands in a sea of jungle. Star-shaped fortifications with barbed wire trenches, fighting positions, and, if they're lucky, a dirt runway or helicopter pad. They protect local villages. They gather intelligence. They interdict Viet Cong infiltration routes from Cambodia and Laos. And almost every night the Viet Cong attack them. One camp in particular, Katum, commanded by First Lieutenant Donald Gideon, is hit so frequently that soldiers call it kaboom. Mortars, rockets, RPGs, small arms fire. Some nights it's just harassment. Other nights it's human wave assaults with sappers trying to breach the wire. The problem is air support. During the day, American aircraft own the sky. F-4 Phantoms, F-100 Super Sabres, A-1 Sky Raiders. They can respond in minutes, drop bombs, strafe enemy positions, break up attacks before they develop. But at night, the capabilities gap becomes a killing field. Port. Most American fighters are designed for speed, for intercepting Soviet bombers, for air-to-air combat. They're fast, sophisticated, and absolutely terrible at defending a small camp in the jungle at midnight. They fly too fast to see ground targets. They carry limited ammunition. They have short loiter times, maybe 30 minutes over the target before they need to refuel. And in 1968, most of them can't see anything at night unless someone lights it up with flares or searchlights, which just tells the enemy exactly where to aim their anti-aircraft guns. The Viet Cong know this, so they favor nighttime attacks. They probe the wire in darkness. They time their assaults for the hours when American air power is blind and ineffective. There is one aircraft that helps, the AC-130 Spooky. It's a gunship, a World War II-era Douglas C-47 Dakota fitted with three 7.62mm miniguns firing out the left side. When it arrives overhead, it can rain down 6,000 rounds per minute of suppressive fire. The pilots call it hosing down the target. Ground troops have another name for it. Puff the Magic Dragon. Spooky saves lives, breaks up attacks, gives defenders a fighting chance. But it's not enough. The AC-130 is old, slow, vulnerable to ground fire. Its sensor systems are primitive, basically a pilot leaning out the window and looking for muzzle flashes in the dark. It can't stay on station long, and most critically, it's armed with 7.62mm miniguns, rifle-caliber weapons that are devastating against exposed infantry but nearly useless against fortified positions or vehicles. What the war needs is something bigger, more lethal, with better sensors, longer loiter time, heavier guns. Someone at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio has an idea: a cargo plane. The Lockheed C-130 Hercules is the workhorse of military airlift. 4 turboprop engines, a 130-foot wingspan, a cargo bay big enough to fit a truck. It can carry 45,000 pounds of cargo, fly for 12 hours without refueling, take off and land on rough dirt strips. It is not by any conventional wisdom a weapon of war. But in 1967, a team of engineers at the Aeronautical Systems Division asks a simple question: what if we mounted guns on it? Not forward-firing guns like on a fighter. Side-firing guns, aimed out the left side of the aircraft while it banks in a left turn. The concept is borrowed from the AC-47's Spooky, but the C-130 offers something the AC-47 can't: space, payload capacity, power, endurance. They call the prototype Gunship 2. The engineers strip out the cargo equipment and install 4 M61 Vulcan 20mm rotary cannons and 4 7.62mm miniguns, all firing from the left side. They add a suite of sensors, the ANAVG-2 night observation device, which amplifies starlight to see in near total darkness, forward-looking infrared to detect heat signatures, side-looking radar to track moving targets. Most critically, they install a fire control computer. Is how it works. The pilot flies the aircraft in a left banking circle, a pylon turn, with the left wing tilted toward the ground at about 30 degrees. The aircraft orbits a fixed point on the ground, usually at 500 feet altitude. Meanwhile, sensor operators sitting inside the aircraft scan the target area. When they detect something, a truck, a group of soldiers, a building, they lock onto it. The sensor feeds that targeting information to the fire control computer. The computer does the math. It calculates the trajectory of the guns based on airspeed, altitude, wind bank angle, and distance to target. It displays steering information on a heads-up display in front of the pilot. The pilot sees two symbols, a pipper and a reticle. The pilot adjusts his bank angle and airspeed to superimpose the pipper over the reticle. When they align, the pilot fires. The guns are mechanically locked at a fixed angle, but because the aircraft is constantly turning, the guns sweep across the same point in space thousands of times. The rounds fired from multiple orbits all converge on the target with devastating precision. It's elegant, counterintuitive, and it works. In September 1967, Gunship 2 deploys to Vietnam for combat trials. 60 days. Prove the concept or scrap the program. The aircraft, tail number 5406226, gets a nickname, Big Spooky. Later someone paints another name on the nose, Mors de Calis, Latin for death from heaven. Katum Special Forces Camp, South Vietnam, August 18, 1968. Night. Captain Tom Spar sits in the left seat of Gunship 2, callsign Spectre 06. His co-pilot, Captain Bob Renault, monitors airspeed and altitude. Behind them in the cargo bay, sensor operators scan their screens. They're flying a routine hunter-killer mission, searching roads and trails for Viet Cong activity. The night is dark. Weather is thick. Heavy clouds at 5,000 feet. Not great flying conditions. Then the radio crackles. Spectre 06. This is the ACZ. We have a troops in contact situation at Katum Special Forces Camp. Request immediate divert. Spar doesn't hesitate. Roger, DAC. Spectre 06 is inbound. He banks the aircraft and heads for Katum, the camp they call Kaboom. On the ground, First Lieutenant Donald Gideon crouches behind sandbags at the command post. Explosions walk across the compound. Mortars. Maybe 82mm. The Viet Cong have been shelling them for an hour. This is the 5th Viet Cong Sapper Battalion. 1,000 men, maybe more. They've been probing the defenses for days, waiting for weather like this. Clouds so thick that American aircraft can't see the ground. Tonight they're coming through the wire. Gideon keys his radio. All positions maintain fire discipline. Do not waste ammunition. Gunship is inbound. If the gunship makes it. Spectre 06 arrives overhead. The weather is worse than Spar thought. Thick clouds. Zero visibility. But the sensors don't need visibility. IR has multiple heat signatures outside the perimeter, the infrared operator reports. Looks like Jesus, at least 50 personnel. Moving toward the wire. NOD confirms the night observation device operator adds. Seeing muzzle flashes. Very assaulting from the north. SPAR establishes his firing orbit at 500 feet. Banking left. Circling the camp. Pilot ready to fire. The fire control computer feeds him targeting data. The pipper and reticle align. He presses the trigger. The 420mm Vulcan cannons erupt. 10,000 rounds per minute combined fire rate. High explosive incendiary rounds. Each one detonates on impact with a flash that the sensor operators can see even through the clouds. The Viet Cong outside the wire are caught in the open. Dozens of them. The 20mm rounds tear through human bodies and detonate. Limbs separate. Men simply come apart. For an hour, Spectre 06 circles. Firing. Reloading. Firing again. The infrared operator watches his screen. Hot signatures go cold. Bodies cooling in the jungle night. Then, a new problem. Pilot, this is flight engineer. We're at bingo fuel. SPAR curses. They need to return to base, refuel, rearm. But the attack is still ongoing. DAC, this is Spectre 06. We're Winchester on fuel. Request another gunship. Roger, Spectre 06. We have a spooky inbound. ETA 10 minutes. 10 minutes. That's an eternity in a firefight. But there's no choice. SPAR rolls out of his orbit and heads for Tan Son Nhut Air Base near Saigon. They land. Fuel trucks roll up. Ammunition crews swarm the aircraft. Spent shell casings, thousands of them, are shoveled out of the cargo bay. Captain Renault walks around the aircraft while they refuel. He spots a hole in the fuselage. A 12.7mm round passed clean through. Didn't hit anything critical. Pure luck. We're going back, SPAR says. Damn right we are. This time Renault takes the left seat. SPAR moves to co-pilot. They switch call signs to Spectre 07. Their wheels up in 30 minutes. When Spectre 07 arrives back over Katum, it's past midnight. An AC-47 Spooky is on station, its miniguns stuttering. But the Spooky is almost out of ammunition. Spectre 07. This is Spooky. We're Winchester. All yours. Renault establishes his orbit. The sensor operators pick up where they left off. IR has hot signatures at the wire. Multiple contacts. They're trying to breach. Through the night vision scope, the NOD operator sees them. Viet Cong sappers carrying Bangalore torpedoes. Long tubes packed with explosives designed to blow gaps in barbed wire. They're pushing the tubes into the perimeter defenses. Renault keys the intercom. Ground element, this is Spectre 07. Confirm all friendlies are under hard cover. Affirmative, Spectre. Everyone's buttoned up. Roger. Guns hot. Engaging. He opens up with all four 7.62mm miniguns. 6,000 rounds per minute. The sound inside the aircraft is like a buzzsaw. The sappers at the wire don't even have time to run. They're simply erased. Wave after wave tries to breach the perimeter. Wave after wave is cut down. At 0300, Renault sees something on his heads-up display. A 12.7mm anti-aircraft gun opening fire from the tree line. Red tracers arcing up toward them. Taking fire. Evasive. He jinks the aircraft. The tracers pass behind them. Got him, the infrared operator says. Gun position marked. Renault brings the pipper over the target. Fires a burst of 20mm miniguns. 6,000 rounds per minute. The sound rises. The crew chief counts the rounds expended. 4,020mm. Didn't. My air cast gun opening fire from the tree line. red tracers arcing up toward them, taking fire, and one bullet hole through the fuselage that missed everything important. Captain Renault writes in his mission report, "This was the beginning of a great working relationship between the Special Forces camps in 3rd Corps and the AC-130. He has no idea how right he is." 1 month later, September 25, 1968, Thien Ngon, Special Forces Camp, Captain Bob Renault, now flying as Spectre 07, again receives an urgent call. Thien Ngon is under attack. Not just any attack. A siege. For 30 days the camp has been hit with rockets and mortars. Over 500 rounds the first night. The team medic was killed. 4 others wounded. Now on the 25th day the Viet Cong are making their final push. 2 regiments. Between 1,000 and 2,000 men. The 9th Viet Cong Regiment. They've been digging trenches toward the camp for weeks, getting closer every night. Tonight they're breaching the wire. Renault arrives overhead. The scene below is chaos. Tracer rounds crisscrossing, trip flares lighting up advancing soldiers, mortars exploding inside the compound. Ground element this is. Spectre 07. Authenticate your position. Captain William Clark, the camp commander, reads out coordinates. His executive officer, First Lieutenant Mike Winslow, is beside him, directing fire from the fighting positions. Spectre, we have enemy sappers at the wire. North side. We need you now. Renault establishes his orbit. But something feels wrong. Pilot, this is IR. In not seeing much activity. It's too quiet. The Viet Cong have stopped firing. They're waiting for the gunship to leave. Renault makes a decision. Ground element, we're departing the area. Say again, Spectre. We're departing. Good luck down there. He rolls out of the orbit. Climbs to altitude. Heads east. For 5 minutes he flies straight and level. Then he makes a 180-degree turn and heads back to Thien Ngon. Silent. No radio calls. All sensors search the perimeter. They think we're gone. The infrared operator stares at his screen. Heat signatures bloom. Holy shit. Multiple contacts. North side. They're at the wire with Bangalore torpedoes. Renault doesn't wait for clearance. He rolls into his firing orbit and opens up with all 4 7.62mm miniguns. 6,000 rounds per minute hammer the sappers at the wire. The Bangalore torpedoes they're carrying detonate. Secondary explosions ripple through the assault force. Talk about a rain of fire, Renault will later say. I completely saturated the area. For hours the Viet Cong try again and again. Each time Spectre 07's guns cut them down. Eventually the aircraft runs low on fuel. An AC-47 Spooky arrives to relieve them. Renault returns to Tan Son Net, refuels, rearms. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Koeninger, the squadron operations officer, has been flying as the 3rd pilot all night. Now he takes the left seat. They switch call signs to Spectre 03 and return to Thien Ngon for a 3rd sortie. When they arrive, the Viet Cong are retreating. The sensor operators track them running west toward the Cambodian border. Rules of engagement prohibit crossing into Cambodia. Ground radar is tracking Spectre 03, monitoring their position to ensure they don't violate Cambodian airspace. Koeninger crosses anyway. He banks into Cambodian airspace, acquires the fleeing soldiers, and opens fire. Dozens are killed before the aircraft is ordered to return to Vietnamese airspace. The mission ends at dawn. Total rounds expended 6,020mm, 12,307.62mm. 5 days later, on September 30th, the Viet Cong make one final assault. They fire over 1,000 rockets, mortars, and recoilless rifle rounds into Thien Ngon. Sappers cut lanes through the wire. 500 to 700 enemy soldiers attack throughout the night. By morning it's over. 150 enemy bodies lie around the perimeter, First Lieutenant Mike Winslow, the Camp XO, later writes, "If it were not for the brave and resilient aircraft crews of the fast movers Spooky and Spectre gunships, the result might have turned out different. The AC-130 has proven itself. But the question remains, can it do more than just defend isolated camps? Can it hunt?" The Ho Chi Minh Trail, Laos, November 1968. It's not really a trail. It's a network. A vast, sprawling logistics system stretching more than 1,000 miles through the mountains and jungles of Laos and Cambodia. A series of roads, footpaths, river crossings, and hidden staging areas. The North Vietnamese call it the Truong Son Road, the Annamite Mountain Road. American intelligence calls it the Ho Chi Minh Trail. It is the lifeline of North Vietnam's war effort. Every night, thousands of trucks drive south through Laos carrying ammunition, weapons, food, fuel, and fresh troops to communist forces in South Vietnam. Every morning, many of those same trucks drive north carrying wounded soldiers to hospitals in North Vietnam. The whole operation is run by Group 559, a massive logistics command with its headquarters near the Laotian town of Chepone. The commander is General Dong Si Nguyen. Under his command are multiple truck regiments, anti-aircraft artillery units, combat engineering battalions, and even a petroleum pipeline running the length of the trail. The trail is divided into sections called bin tram, logistics support stations spaced every 20 to 30 kilometers. Each bin tram has a commander who coordinates truck movements via field phone to the next station. The drivers take the same routes every night. They know every twist, turn, and pothole. They can navigate in complete darkness. Each bin tram has fuel depots, ammunition storage, repair facilities, and bomb shelters. Some are dug into the sides of mountains. Others are concealed beneath triple canopy jungle. A few are elaborate underground complexes with tunnels connecting living quarters, command posts, and vehicle parks. All of them are protected by anti-aircraft guns. The trucks themselves are mostly Chinese ZS-151s and Russian ZL-157s, rugged all-wheel drive gasoline-powered vehicles capable of hauling 2.5-ton payloads over rough terrain. They're not armored. They're not particularly fast. But they're mechanically reliable, and there are thousands of them. To avoid detection, drivers camouflage their trucks with fresh-cut branches and foliage. They drive blacked out. No headlights. They move in convoys of 5 to 50 vehicles depending on the mission and the risk level. They only travel at night, because during the day American aircraft own the sky. For years, the United States has tried to cut the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Strategic bombing of North Vietnam, tactical strikes on key choke points, arc-light missions by B-52s dropping dozens of tons of bombs on suspected staging areas, Operation Igloo White, an elaborate system of sensors dropped throughout the jungle to detect truck movements. None of it works. The North Vietnamese are too adaptive. When a road is bombed, combat engineers detour traffic onto parallel routes while they repair the damage. When a bridge is destroyed, they build a submerged ford just below the waterline. When sensors are dropped, they move trucks to different routes. And at night? At night, most American aircraft can't see anything. That's the problem the AC-130 is designed to solve. November 24, 1968. Operation Commando Hunt begins. The 16th Special Operations Squadron Spectre is formally activated under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Garvey Fink. Home base Ubon Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand. 40 miles from the Laotian border. Within easy range of the most active sections of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The mission: find and destroy North Vietnamese trucks at night. The crews are volunteers. Pilots from the C-130 community. Navigators, flight engineers, sensor operators, gunners. Some are veterans of the AC-47 Spooky program. Others are newly trained at Lockbourne Air Force Base in Ohio, rushing through compressed courses because the war doesn't wait for perfect training. They fly 12-hour missions, sometimes longer. They take off after sunset, fly into Laos orbit over pre-assigned visual reconnaissance areas, VR-4A, VR-4B, VR-10, and hunt trucks until dawn. Very guided by Moonbeam, an AC-130 airborne command and control center that coordinates all air activity over Laos, and very escorted by F-4 Phantoms from the Night Owls Squadron call sign Outfox Flight, whose job is to suppress anti-aircraft fire. It's dangerous work. The North Vietnamese are ready for them. December 1968. Steel Tiger, East Laos. Major Ward Meyer sits in the left seat of the exterminator tail number 54-1628 call sign Ringo. It's his 10th mission over the trail. Hes getting the hang of it. The infrared operator calls out IR has contact. Single vehicle. Moving south on Route 91 alternate. Meyer banks into his firing orbit. The pipper and reticle align. Guns hot. Engaging. He fires a burst of 20 mm. The rounds walk across the target. The truck explodes. Good hit. Target destroyed. But the IR operator is still scanning his screen. Pilot M seeing more heat signatures. Multiple vehicles. Looks like, holy shit, it's a convoy. I count at least 25 trucks. A convoy. This is what they've been waiting for. Meyer adjusts his orbit to get a better angle. The convoy is moving down a narrow trail single file. Perfect. Engaging lead vehicle. He fires. The lead truck erupts in flames, blocking the trail. Engaging trail vehicle. Another burst. The last truck in the convoy explodes. Trapped. Now the convoy has nowhere to go. The trail is too narrow to turn around. The jungle on both sides is too thick to drive through. They're pinned between two burning trucks. All right, let's work our way through them. Forward gunners. You're cleared hot. For the next hour, Spectre methodically destroys the convoy. Truck by truck. Some drivers bail out and run. Others stay in their cabs, either too terrified to move or following orders to stay with their vehicles. It doesn't matter. The 20 mm high explosive incendiary rounds don't discriminate. When the exterminator finally runs out of ammunition, 19 trucks are destroyed. 2 more are damaged. In his post-mission report, Major Meyer describes the scene: a burning, exploding holocaust in the jungle below. On the ground, the survivors walk back to their bin tram. They tell stories. Stories about the aircraft that hunts at night. The one that sees through darkness. The one that circles overhead for hours, raining fire with no warning and no mercy. They call it the Old Lady. And they are terrified of it. Laos. Late 1969. The North Vietnamese are learning. After a year of AC-130 operations, Group 559 commanders have studied the gunship's tactics. They know the aircraft typically flies at 500 feet. They know it orbits in a left-hand circle. They know it uses sensors to detect heat and movement. So they adapt. 37 mm anti-aircraft guns are moved into position along the most heavily trafficked sections of the trail. Gun crews practice engaging targets at exactly 500 feet. They dig in their guns, camouflage them with vegetation, and assign each crew a specific box of sky to fire into. When an AC-130 enters that box, they open fire. When it leaves, they stop, preventing the Americans from pinpointing their location. It's working. AC-130s are taking more hits, spending more time evading anti-aircraft fire than shooting trucks. Crews are reporting that they're getting driven off target before they can finish engaging convoys. The Gunship Program Office at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base sees the problem. The AC-130 needs better standoff range. It needs to fly higher, above the effective altitude of 37 mm guns. And it needs more firepower. Project Surprise Package. While Ling Temco Vought is building production AC-130s, the Air Force Systems Command decides to build one more in-house. An 8th gunship. An advanced prototype to test new technologies. They designate C-130A tail number 560400 for the project. They name it Thor. The armament changes are significant. The 4 rear-mounted guns, 2 20mm cannons and 2 7.62mm miniguns, are replaced with 2 40mm Bofors cannons. These are serious weapons. Anti-aircraft guns actually, but mounted for ground attack. They fire a 2-pound high-explosive shell with devastating effect. And critically, they can engage targets from 10,000 feet, well above the range of 37mm anti-aircraft fire. The sensor suite is upgraded. The old night observation device is replaced with a low-light level television sensor with a laser target designator. This allows Thor to mark targets for F-4 Phantoms carrying laser-guided bombs. A new system is added, the Black Crow. It's an electronic sensor that detects the electromagnetic emissions from running gasoline engines. Russian and Chinese trucks use gasoline engines, not diesels. Black Crow can detect them from miles away, giving the AC-130 early warning of convoy locations. The fire control computer is upgraded from analog to digital. More accurate. Faster processing. A moving target indicator is added. A video recorder for bomb damage assessment. Improved electronic countermeasures. Thor is the most advanced gunship ever built. In December 1969, it deploys to Yubon for combat trials. December 30, 1969. It deploys to Yubon for combat trials. December 30, 00 Thor. Bye. December 1969. It deploys to Yubon for combat trials. December. Major Ken Gentry sits in the left seat of Thor, call sign Tampa. In the right seat beside him is Major General Robert Petit, visiting from 7th Air Force Headquarters to observe the new aircraft in action. They're hunting in the 91A network, a spider web of roads near the Mujia Pass, the strategic choke point where the Ho Chi Minh Trail enters Laos from North Vietnam. The Black Crow operator calls out BC has multiple contacts. Bearing 205 range 12 miles, Thor is detecting truck engines before the trucks even come into view. They close the distance. The infrared operator picks up heat signatures. IR has visual. I count 3 trucks. Moving southeast. Gentry establishes his firing orbit at 8,500 feet, higher than any AC-130 has operated before. Engaging with 40 millimeters. The Bofors cannons thump, much slower rate of fire than the 20mm Vulcans, about 120 rounds per minute, but each shell is massive, 2 pounds of high explosive. The first truck disintegrates, the second explodes in a fireball. The third tries to flee but takes a direct hit and flips over. 3 kills in under a minute, but the IR operator is still scanning. Pilot M seeing more heat signatures under foliage. Looks like a storage area. Big one. Hidden beneath the jungle canopy, invisible to the naked eye but glowing on infrared, is a massive supply depot. All right, Gentry says. Let's mark it for the Phantoms. He activates the laser target designator. A beam of invisible laser light locks onto the target coordinates. The targeting pod transmits those coordinates to orbiting F-4s carrying paveway laser-guided bombs. Outfox flight. This is Tampa. I have a target lased. You're cleared hot. Tampa Outfox lead. I have a good lock. In hot. The F-4 rolls in from altitude. Releases its bomb. The paveway guides itself down the laser beam right into the center of the storage area. The explosion is catastrophic. Secondary detonations ripple through the jungle. Ammunition cooking off. Fuel tanks exploding. Within seconds, over 100 fires are burning. A column of smoke rises 5,000 feet into the air. Major General Petit, watching from the co-pilot seat, leans forward. Good God. They're not done. The infrared operator detects another target. IR has a bridge. Looks temporary. Northeast about 2 clicks. Single vehicle approaching. Gentry swings the orbit. There it is, an improvised bridge across a stream. A truck is about to cross. He fires the 40mm cannon. The bridge collapses. The truck tumbles into the ravine. When Tampa lands back at Ubon, the crew debrief is glowing. Thor has proven the concept. Higher altitude. Better sensors. More powerful guns. The AC-130 just got a whole lot deadlier. January 1970. The Gunship Program Office orders a new round of ammunition for testing 40mm high-explosive incendiary rounds with Mish metal liners. Mish metal. Abandoned trucks sit stationary on the trail, making perfect targets for circling gunships. And once drivers realize they can flee, they start abandoning their trucks at the first sound of propellers, even before the AC-130 opens fire. Truck losses skyrocket. Supply shipments to South Vietnam slow to a trickle. General Nguyen becomes furious. Group 559 Headquarters, Base Area 604 Laos. December 1970. General Dong Si Nguyen stands before his assembled commanders. His face is tight with anger. This is unacceptable. On the table in front of him are reports. Casualty figures. Truck losses. Mission failures. The numbers are staggering. In the past month alone, over 200 trucks have been destroyed by American gunships. That's not counting the ones damaged or abandoned. That's not counting the supplies lost. That's not counting the drivers killed or wounded. His commanders sit in silence. They know the general is looking for someone to blame. I am told the general continues that our drivers are abandoning their trucks, running into the jungle like cowards, scattering like a flock of geese because of one aircraft. One of the commanders, a colonel who oversees the 102nd Transportation Battalion, speaks carefully. General, with respect, the drivers are not cowards. The American aircraft, the one they call the Old Lady, it can see in complete darkness. It fires for hours without stopping. Our drivers have witnessed their comrades burned alive in their trucks. They believe staying with their vehicles is certain death. Nonsense, the general snaps. These are exaggerations. Fear talking. The Americans do not have magic aircraft that can see through the night. This is superstition. Another commander, an artillery officer, tries General. Our anti-aircraft gunners report that the aircraft operates at very high altitude. Our 37mm guns can barely reach it. And it circles for hours, far longer than any fighter or bomber. Then your gunners need better training. The general's voice is cold. I do not believe these stories. I think our drivers have lost their nerve. They need to be shown that there is nothing to fear. He pauses. Tonight I will prove it. Organize a 50-truck convoy from the 102nd Battalion. I will ride in the lead truck. I will personally command this convoy and demonstrate that courage, not cowardice, is what wins wars. His commanders exchange glances. None of them dare argue. If drivers are going to die, the general says they should die at the steering wheels of their trucks. To have our officers and men scatter like geese just because of one aircraft is an insult to our intellect, to our intelligence. The meeting is dismissed. The convoy will depart at nightfall, 500 feet above Laos. Same night. Captain Hop Riapol sits in the left seat of his AC-130 callsign Spur. His co-pilot monitors instruments. Behind them, the sensor operators scan their screens. They're escorted by 3 F-4 Phantoms callsign Dudley Flight orbiting high above and behind. It's a clear night. Good visibility. Bright moon. Perfect hunting weather. The Black Crow operator speaks. BC has multiple contacts. Strong signals. Bearing 310, range 15 miles. That's a lot of trucks, the co-pilot says. Copy. Let's go take a look. Spur closes the distance. The infrared operator stares at his display. IR has visual. Pilot, this is a big one. I count at least 40 vehicles, maybe 50. Very moving in convoy formation. Ryapul's pulse quickens. A 50-truck convoy is rare. This is a major target. Moonbeam, this is Spur. I have a 50-vehicle convoy in sight. Requesting clearance to engage. Spur Moonbeam. You are cleared hot. Dudley Flight will provide top cover. Roger. Engaging. Ryapul establishes his firing orbit at 8,500 feet. Banks left. The convoy is winding along a narrow mountain road. Single file. Perfect. Engaging lead vehicle. He fires a burst of 40 mm. The lead truck explodes. Engaging trail vehicle. Another burst. The last truck in the convoy disintegrates. Trapped. On the ground, General Dong Si Nguyen feels the concussion of the explosion 3 trucks ahead. His driver is screaming something, but the general can't hear over the ringing in his ears. He looks up through the windshield. He can hear it now. The sound his drivers described. 4 propellers. Circling. Methodical. Relentless. The old lady. Stay in your trucks, the general shouts into his radio. All drivers remain with your vehicles. That is an order. Some obey. They die. For over an hour, Spur circles overhead. The 40 mm Bofors cannons fire methodically. Thump. Thump. Each round finds its target. Each target explodes. The 20 mm Vulcan cannons add to the carnage, firing high explosive incendiary rounds that detonate on impact and set everything on fire. The infrared display looks like a constellation. Hotspots blooming. Cooling. Blooming again as secondary explosions ripple through the convoy. Ryapul is calm. Professional. This is what Hez trained for. Engaging target 23. Thump. Explosion. 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 The Dudley Flight F-4s overhead report minimal anti-aircraft fire. 137 mm gun opens up. Fires 21 rounds, all of them wildly inaccurate. Then it goes silent. Either out of ammunition or destroyed by the F-4s. When Spur finally runs low on ammunition and fuel, Ryapul does a final damage assessment. 31 trucks destroyed. 2 more damaged beyond repair. He doesn't know that one of the survivors crawling out from under a truck chassis is General Dong Si Nguyen. Group 559 headquarters. The next day. General Dong Si Nguyen. Group 559 headquarters. The next day. General Dong Si Nguyen. Group 559 headquarters. The next day. General Dong Si Nguyen. Group 559 headquarters. The next day. General takes a breath. The fault lies with me. Our men are brave and resolute. But bravery and resolve alone will not defeat the enemy. I underestimated the Americans. They are able to put a man on the moon, which means they can do a lot of other things with their technology. He pauses. The truth is that the AC-130 is fitted with very sophisticated surveillance equipment. It can detect our trucks even before the trucks arrive in its area of operations. It can circle for hours, firing with precision from altitudes our guns cannot reach. The commanders remain silent. They have never heard the general speak like this. Our problem now is that we must immediately institute new measures and come up with new ways to carry out our duties. We must redeploy our anti-aircraft forces. We must develop new tactics. We must find a way to defeat this weapon. He looks around the room. Because if we do not, we will lose this war. From that day forward, the AC-130 becomes Group 559's archenemy. General Nguyen offers bounties. Cigarettes. Extra food rations. Luxury items. anything to motivate his anti-aircraft gunners to shoot down just one gunship. The message goes out across all PAVN networks: destroy the AC-130s at all costs. American intelligence intercepts the radio traffic. 7th Air Force issues a warning to all AC-130 crews: increased anti-aircraft efforts expected, especially near Chepone and Route 9. The hunters have become the hunted. Steel Tiger, East Laos, January 1971. The North Vietnamese are getting creative. They build fake convoys. Dozens of destroyed truck hulks arranged on roads and surrounded by camouflaged anti-aircraft guns. Sometimes they place burning embers under the engines to create heat signatures. Sometimes they run small gasoline engines to trigger the Black Crow sensors. It's an ambush. AC-130 crews start to notice patterns. If a target looks too good, it probably is. Real convoys scatter when attacked. Fake ones stay put. Real trucks explode and burn in characteristic ways. Fake ones just sit there. The crews learn to watch driver behavior through their sensors. Real drivers panic. They bail out. They run. Abandoned trucks roll downhill on mountain roads. Cargo spills out. Fake convoys don't do any of that. But some ambushes are more sophisticated. The lead truck decoy tactic equips a single driver with a lightly armored, highly maneuverable vehicle. When the AC-130 arrives overhead, the convoy stops. The lead driver speeds ahead, hoping the gunship will chase him into a killing zone ringed with anti-aircraft guns. Sometimes it works. More often, Spectre crews recognize the tactic and ignore the bait, focusing instead on the stationary convoy. The North Vietnamese also adapt their anti-aircraft tactics. Gun emplacements are positioned on high terrain with clear fields of fire. Each gun is assigned a specific box of sky to engage. Crews don't fire continuously. That would reveal their position. Instead, they wait until an AC-130 enters their designated zone, fire a burst, then go silent when the aircraft leaves. It makes the guns hard to locate. But the AC-130 F-4 teams develop a counter-tactic. When anti-aircraft fire erupts, the illuminator operator in the AC-130 drops Mk6 ground marker flares, essentially wooden logs filled with slow-burning compounds. He drops one flare where the tracers originate. Then he circles 180 degrees and drops another flare on the opposite side. Now the gun position is bracketed between 2 points of light. The F-4 Phantoms use those 2 flares to establish their attack heading. They roll in, drop their bombs between the markers, and silence the gun. It's not perfect. Sometimes the F-4s get hit by other guns while attacking. Sometimes they miss. But it's effective enough. One F-4 pilot becomes legendary among the Spectre crews. They call him Animal. Nobody knows his real name. He flies with aggressive, almost reckless determination. When anti-aircraft fire erupts, Animal doesn't wait for the AC-130 to mark the target with flares. He dives immediately, sometimes as low as 1,000 feet, to draw fire away from the gunship. His tactic: turn on his navigation lights, become a visible target, make himself irresistible to enemy gunners. While every gun in the area fires at the brightly lit F-4, Animal's wingman, flying blacked out in trail, follows him down and bombs the gun positions. It shouldn't work, but it does. Spectre crews request Animal as their escort whenever possible. They know that when he's overhead, they can focus on hunting trucks without constantly worrying about being shot down. February 24, 1970. Remote area of Steel Tiger East. Major Richard Dyer, flying the Warlord with call sign X-Ray, is searching an area where AC-130s rarely patrol. It's a minor trail far from the main arteries of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. The infrared operator has been scanning for 20 minutes without seeing anything. Then IR has a single vehicle, moving slow. Looks like, I don't know, it seems unusual. Unusual how? Can't explain it. Just doesn't feel right. Too deliberate. Dyer makes a decision. Let's follow it. See where it goes. Don't fire yet. For 10 minutes they track the lone truck. It winds through the jungle following what appears to be a barely visible trail. Then it disappears. Lost visual, the IR operator says. It just vanished. Pulled off into the trees. Keep scanning that area. The IR operator adjusts his sensor, increasing sensitivity. Hes looking for any thermal signature, any hint of heat. And then he sees it. Pilot Im picking up hotspots under the canopy. Multiple signatures. Different temperatures. And Im seeing circular trails. Like a road network, but it loops back on itself. Dyer realizes what they've found. That's a truck park. A hidden staging area. Camouflaged beneath the jungle, invisible from above, is a major supply depot. Dozens of trucks parked in concealed revetments, all of them radiating heat that the infrared sensor can detect through the foliage. All right, Dyer says. Block the exits first. We don't want anything escaping. He engages the trucks nearest the circular trails, the ones parked closest to the access roads. The 40mm shells punch through the jungle canopy and detonate on the vehicles below. Fires bloom. Secondary explosions ripple outward. Now the other trucks are trapped inside. For the next hour, X-ray systematically destroys the hidden truck park. The IR operator guides him to each hotspot. The 40mm and 20mm guns do the rest. When X-ray finally departs, over 30 trucks are burning under the jungle canopy. Group 559 had thought that location was perfectly hidden. They were wrong. By the end of 1970, PAVN commanders and drivers are demoralized. The AC-130 seems to have supernatural abilities. It detects trucks before they can be seen. It fires with uncanny accuracy from altitudes that anti-aircraft guns can barely reach. It circles for hours, methodically destroying everything it finds. Some drivers refuse to transport ammunition or fuel, knowing these cargoes are more likely to explode catastrophically when hit. Others develop elaborate superstitions, painting good luck charms on their trucks, carrying amulets, praying to ancestors for protection. None of it helps. The only defense is to avoid detection altogether, to drive faster, to take different routes every night, to move in smaller convoys that are harder to spot, but the AC-130 finds them anyway. General Nguyen's frustration grows. In his memoir, later translated by CIA officer Merle Pribino, the general writes, beginning with the 1970-1971 dry season, the enemy changed tactics, switching from trying to destroy bridges and roads to making attacks aimed at our personnel. The attacks were aimed primarily against our trucks, our anti-aircraft artillery positions, our warehouses. During this period, the Ho Chi Minh Trail's most dangerous opponent was the AC-130. He continues, because we were over-optimistic and even inebriated with our victories, we were slow to recognize and study the enemy's new tactics and equipment. When the number of trucks destroyed and drivers killed or wounded began to grow day by day, a number of cadre and drivers became concerned and frightened. According to reports received from a few of our way stations, some drivers tried to avoid transporting weapons, ammunition, and fuel. This was something that had never before occurred in the history of the Ho Chi Minh Transportation Corps. The AC-130 is breaking Group 559's will to fight, and the North Vietnamese High Command knows it. Ubon, Royal, Thai Air Force Base, Thailand. 1971. The men who fly the AC-130 are volunteers, 14-man crews. Pilots, navigators, sensor operators, flight engineers, and gunners. They come from the C-130 airlift community, the AC-47 Spooky program, and specialized training schools hastily established to feed the war's insatiable appetite for qualified personnel. They're not fighter jocks. They're not glamorous. They don't fly sleek supersonic jets or perform aerobatic maneuvers. They fly cargo planes, modified for killing. And they do it better than anyone else in the war. In the cockpit sit the aircraft commander and co-pilot. The AC, usually a major or captain, flies from the left seat, Hes responsible for everything. Navigation, communication with command and control, and most critically the firing pass. He controls the bank angle, maintains airspeed, keeps the pipper aligned with the reticle, and presses the trigger. It's a skill that takes hundreds of hours to master. Flying a left-hand orbit while looking out the left window at a target 5,000 feet below, adjusting bank angle by fractions of a degree to keep guns on target while anti-aircraft tracers are arcing up toward you. The co-pilot sits in the right seat. He monitors airspeed during the firing orbit, critical because speed affects the ballistic trajectory of the rounds. He handles communications with F-4 escorts. He scans for other aircraft. And if the AC is hit, he takes over. Behind the cockpit is the sensor booth. 3 men sit surrounded by glowing screens and electronic equipment. The infrared sensor operator stares at a display showing the world in shades of heat. Vehicles glow white-hot. Recently driven roads show thermal trails. Human bodies appear as dim signatures. He can see through darkness, through clouds, through light foliage. The low-light level television operator uses a camera that amplifies available light, starlight, moonlight, to produce a grainy video image. It requires some ambient light to function, but on clear nights it provides better detail than infrared. The electronic warfare officer manages the Black Crow ignition detector, the radar warning receiver, and the electronic countermeasures pods. Hes the one who calls out, "We're being painted by fire control radar or SAM launch detected." These 3 men work together, coordinating their observations, validating targets, guiding the pilot's pepper onto trucks and gun positions and storage depots. They are the eyes of the gunship. Midway through the cargo bay, the navigator sits at a small table covered with maps and charts. His job is deceptively difficult. He must navigate the aircraft to specific locations using maps that are often inaccurate, roads that aren't charted, and terrain features that look identical in triple canopy jungle. He confirms target coordinates. He ensures they're not firing into no-fire zones. He clears the pilot to engage. He's also responsible for keeping track of where they are, where friendly forces are, and where the border with Cambodia or North Vietnam is. Borders they're not supposed to cross, but sometimes do anyway. The flight engineer sits at a panel on the right side of the cargo bay. He monitors engine instruments, fuel state, hydraulics, electrical systems, and critically he controls the gun control panel. When the pilot says guns, hot, the FE selects which weapons to fire. He coordinates with the gunners to ensure ammunition is flowing, guns are functioning, and any malfunctions are cleared immediately. If something goes wrong with the aircraft, and in combat things always go wrong, the FE is the one who keeps it flying. In the rear of the aircraft, 5 aerial gunners maintain the weapons. They're not fighter pilots. They're not even officers. They're enlisted men. Staff sergeants and technical sergeants from the weapons maintenance career field. Some of them are barely 20 years old. Their job is brutal. When the guns fire, spent shell casings fly everywhere. 20mm brass the size of a beer bottle. 40mm shells as big as a soda can. Hot metal clattering across the cargo bay floor. The gunners shovel these casings into canvas bags, while the aircraft banks in its firing orbit, while G-forces press them against bulkheads, while the noise is deafening, and the smoke is choking, and the whole aircraft vibrates with the recoil of the guns. They reload. They clear jams. They replace barrels that overheat. They do this for hours at a time, mission after mission, until their hands are blistered and their hearing is damaged, and their backs ache from the 30-pound flak vests they wear throughout the flight. One gunner, the right scanner, has an additional job. He stands at the right paratroop door, staring out into the darkness, watching for anti-aircraft fire. When he sees tracers, he calls out, "Taking fire 3 o'clock low," or heavy AAA 9 o'clock. The scanner's warnings give the pilot precious seconds to react, to jink, to evade. More than one crew owes their lives to an alert scanner. Finally, there's the illuminator operator. Despite the name, he rarely uses the illuminator, a powerful searchlight that would make the aircraft a target. Instead, he hangs the upper half of his body out the open rear ramp, suspended in space 5,000 feet above enemy territory, watching the ground below. His job is to observe, to spot gun flashes, to deploy flares when needed, to direct defensive maneuvers when the aircraft is under fire. It's terrifying work. The wind roars past at 150 miles per hour. The aircraft banks steeply and Hes looking straight down at the jungle. If his safety harness fails, Hes gone. But he has the best view of anyone on the crew. When anti-aircraft fire erupts, Hes usually the first to see it. These 14 men fly together, train together, depend on each other absolutely. They fly 80 to 100 combat missions per year-long tour. Some veteran crews, those who extend or return for second and third tours, fly 300 or more missions. They know the statistics. 6 AC-130s have been shot down, 52 crewmen killed. They know the names: the Arbitrator, the Warlord, Odin, Prometheus, the Destroyer, Thor. They know that every mission could be their last, but they keep flying, because down on the ground American soldiers are depending on them. And Laos, South Vietnam, April 1972. The city is surrounded. 40,000 North Vietnamese troops, 600 armored vehicles, artillery, tanks. The full weight of the PAVN Easter offensive is bearing down on a single South Vietnamese city defended by fewer than 7,000 ARVN soldiers. And Laos is 80 miles north of Saigon. If it falls, the road to the capital is wide open. It cannot fall. For 94 days, and Laos is under siege. ARVN defenders fight house to house, street to street. American B-52s drop arc-light strikes on PAVN positions. Tactical fighters swarm the area during daylight hours. And at night, the AC-130s arrive. Every night. Sometimes 2 or 3 gunships at once, orbiting in shifts to provide 24-hour coverage. The AC-130s fire danger close missions, supporting ARVN troops who are within 100 meters of the enemy. The precision is surgical. Sensor operators identify friendly positions marked with infrared strobes. They lock onto PAVN troops advancing through the streets. The pilot puts rounds exactly where they're needed. Sometimes the ARVN soldiers can feel the heat of the 40mm shells passing overhead. One South Vietnamese officer later writes the AC-130 was the difference. Without them, Laos would have fallen in the first week. The AC-130's precision becomes legendary. During one mission supporting a village defense, the mayor is worried about his boat tied to a dock behind his house. He radios the gunship crew, "Can you prove you won't sink my boat?" The pilot agrees. He fires a burst at a large tree 50 meters away. The tree is hit dead center, falls into the jungle. The boat is untouched. The mayor gives clearance to fire closer. The mission is accomplished. The village is saved. The boat survives. By 1972, the AC-130 has evolved even further. The AC-130E PAVE Spectre variant mounts a 105mm howitzer, the same artillery piece used by U.S. Army Field Artillery. It's the largest gun ever mounted on an aircraft. The 105mm shells weigh over 40 pounds, each one. They can destroy bunkers, buildings, armored vehicles. They can engage targets from 15,000 feet. It's no longer just a gunship. It's flying artillery. But precision comes with risk. The closer the AC-130 gets to the ground, the more vulnerable it is. The longer it stays in one area, the more time enemy gunners have to plot its orbit and fire into its path. The crews know this. They have two rules: limit exposure, and always expect to be fired upon when firing. Every time they pull the trigger, they're revealing their position. Every orbit makes them predictable. Every mission is a calculated risk. Sometimes the calculation is wrong. March 29, 1972. Steel Tiger, East Laos. Prometheus tail number 550044, call sign Spectre 13, is working a convoy near Route 9. The mission starts well. Multiple trucks detected. Good sensor locks. The 40mm guns are hitting their targets. Then the elecfinial callers quilades. Alu. Matted. 19. Rolls the aircraft. Deploys flares and chaff. Punches the throttles. The first SA-2 surface-to-air missile passes behind them. Close enough that the warhead proximity fuse doesn't trigger, but close enough that the crew can see it through the windows. Second missile. Evading. But there's no evading this one. The SA-2 detonates 20 feet from the aircraft. The blast wave tears through the left side. Engines 3 and 4 are destroyed. The wing is shredded. Hydraulic fluid sprays everywhere. Fire. Bailout. 14 men scramble for their parachutes. The aircraft is rolling uncontrollably. Some crew members are thrown against bulkheads by centrifugal force. 13 men get out. They float down through the darkness, watching Prometheus spiral into the jungle and explode. They land in enemy territory. They evade. They hide. They're hunted by PAVN troops who know an American aircraft just went down. For hours they wait in the jungle, listening to enemy soldiers searching for them. At dawn, Jolly Green rescue helicopters arrive. A-1 Sky Raiders suppress ground fire. The helicopters hover in small clearings, rotors clipping trees, while para-rescuemen pull survivors aboard. All 13 men are recovered. One man, Major Harry Browner, did not get out of the aircraft. He is posthumously awarded the Silver Star. The loss of Prometheus is a stark reminder. The AC-130 is not invincible, but it is necessary. Korat, Royal Thai Air Force Base, Thailand. July 4, 1976. The last AC-130 in Southeast Asia taxis toward the runway. It's been painted for the occasion. The numbers 576 are rendered in red, white, and blue on the nose. Below the cockpit windows, someone has stenciled, "The Spirit of 76. It's America's bicentennial." And after 8 years of war, the gunships are finally going home. Colonel Neil Edens, the wing commander, hands the squadron guidon to the aircraft commander. The crew salutes. They climb aboard. The 4 turboprop engines roar to life. The Spirit of 76 rolls down the runway, lifts off, and circles the field one last time. The wings dip in farewell. Then the gunship climbs into the morning sky and disappears. In a command post in Laos, General Dong Si Nguyen receives the report. The American gunships are leaving. He sits at his desk and reads the intelligence summary. 8 years. Over 10,000 trucks destroyed. Countless convoys broken. Thousands of his soldiers killed. The most feared weapon of the entire war. And now it's gone. He allows himself a moment of relief. Then he gets back to work. There is still a war to win. There are still supplies to move. There is still the trail. But at least now there will be no more old ladies hunting in the darkness. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. Present day. Aircraft 54 to 1630. The first production AC-130. Sits in the National Museum of the United States Air Force. Mors de Calis. Death from heaven. Visitors walk past it staring up at the four engines, the gun ports, the scarred fuselage. Most of them don't fully understand what they're looking at. They see a cargo plane with guns bolted to the side. A strange-looking hybrid that doesn't quite fit into any category. They don't see the thousands of lives it saved. But the men who flew it remember. They remember 12-hour missions over hostile territory. The sound of 4 turboprop engines. The recoil of the guns shaking the entire aircraft. The green glow of the sensor displays. The smell of gun smoke and hydraulic fluid. They remember the fear, the adrenaline, the exhaustion, and they remember the radio calls from soldiers on the ground. Spectre, this is Firebase Alpha. You just saved our asses. Thank you. Those words made it all worthwhile. The AC-130 program was never supposed to work. A cargo plane doesn't belong in combat. Side-firing guns violate every principle of aerial gunnery. Flying in circles over enemy territory defies basic survival instincts. But it worked because the engineers thought differently. Because the crews were willing to take risks. Because the mission demanded something that didn't exist and they built it anyway. The AC-130 bridged the gap between what fighters could do and what ground troops needed. It provided precision fire support at night, something no other aircraft in the world could do. It proved that innovation matters more than convention. That unconventional solutions can solve unconventional problems. And it taught the enemy a lesson they would never forget. Present day. Somewhere in the Middle East. A different gunship. A different war. The AC-130J Ghostwriter. The latest variant. Orbits over a compound where ISIS fighters are massing for an attack on Iraqi forces. The sensors are digital now. High-definition infrared. Synthetic aperture radar. Electro-optical cameras that can read license plates from 20,000 feet. The weapons are more sophisticated. A 30mm cannon. A 105mm howitzer. Precision-guided munitions that can fly through a window. But the concept is unchanged. Left pylon turn. Sensors detect. Computer calculates. Pilot fires. And on the ground the enemy learns the same lesson their predecessors learned 50 years ago. You can fight jets. You can shoot down helicopters. You can even survive bombs. But when you hear the sound of 4 propellers circling in the darkness above you, when you realize the gunship has found you, when the sky begins to rain hellfire, there is nowhere to hide. Final thought. In December 1970, General Dong Si Nguyen sat in the passenger seat of a truck and refused to believe his driver's stories about an aircraft that could see in the dark and fire for hours without stopping. He called them cowards. He called them liars. Then he rode with them into the jungle night determined to prove them wrong. 50 trucks in his convoy. Fresh supplies for the war effort. All the confidence of a general who had never faced the enemy he was about to encounter. Within an hour 31 of those trucks were burning wreckage. The general survived. Wounded. Shaken. Forever changed. The next day he stood before his commanders and admitted what his drivers had been trying to tell him all along. The Americans had created something new. Something his forces weren't prepared for. Something that violated every assumption about what aircraft could do. They had taken a cargo plane, a lumbering transport designed to haul freight, and turned it into the most lethal truck killer in the history of warfare. They had mounted guns that fired sideways. They had installed sensors that could see through total darkness. They had trained crews to fly in circles over enemy territory for hours at a time, hunting with patience and precision. And they had given it a name that would haunt the North Vietnamese for the rest of the war. Mors de Calis. Death. From heaven. The Viet Cong never expected the sky to deliver artillery. They never imagined that a cargo plane could become a weapon platform. They never thought American technology would advance to the point where darkness offered no protection. They were wrong on all counts. And when the gunships arrived, when Spectre began its nightly hunts, when the old ladies started circling overhead, the sky rained hellfire, and the trail ran red.